Welcome back, viewers. Thank you for staying tuned. It's time for myself and CT to preview Division 1 of action now. And CT, round 10 was remarkable, some of the results we saw, just how close it was across the whole competition. 3 games decided by 6 points or less. Another one decided by only 13 points. Remarkable that four of the 5 games went down to probably the last minute or so. It's good for the Northern Football League.
Oh, it's great, mate. Aside from the McLeod North Heidelberg match, there were 4 absolute belters, and the commentary team that was a part of it was just a good week for football.
We'll of course at Northcote Park in West Preston, which, as we know, is decided in the last 2 minutes or so. So we'll get into that one shortly. But coming up this weekend, we have Montmorency playing Greensborough. It's 2 sides who actually won with virtually the last kick of the game. Greensborough got over Whittlesea, played by inaccuracy on the weekend with Greensborough 9-19. They kicked Whittlesea 10-10, so Tim Bongitti's goal with 30 seconds to go was what won the game for Greensborough. Pretty much pinched the victory in the end. And for Monty, it was Ben Haynes, the star recruit, of course an AFL star, and also playing for EDFL side Maribyrnong Park last year. He comes back in. It's an injury-interrupted start to the season, but on the left peg, 55 metres out the boundary, no worries on the run there. Kicks a goal against Eltham and gets the Magpies over the line by 4 points. So 2 sides coming off fantastic victories. We're going pretty confident this week. Monty, as you just mentioned off air, starting to move up the ladder now. 4 wins from the first 10. They were struggling with 4 consecutive losses to start the year. And if they can sneak into the finals, they are a danger for those sides in there. But Greensborough, they've been in pretty good form this year. I like their game still when we saw them against Heidelberg. And I think they can do the job away from home. And I think they might beat Monty this week.
Look, I'm going to tip Montmorency. I just think that the first time these two played out at War Memorial Park, and we were there as well, Montmorency had a lot of chances in their first half and just didn't take them. And that was when they weren't playing the best football. Now I think they're in a bit of form. They've won 4 of the last 6 at their home ground, which is very hard to win on. Smaller ground, and I know they play it well. I'm going to tip an upset and really spark their season. So Montmorency for an upset win and to start pushing for the finals.
It's a good point you make, because I guess certain grounds, while you say it's away from home, teams tend to adapt. But it's one of the ground at Parr Road there, where a lot of sides go there and they just don't handle the surroundings of the ground at all, and they really do struggle to get involved there. So it is a good point you make. It'll be a really close game, and I don't think too much will separate these 2 sides coming into the game. Bundoora hosts McLeod on Saturday, and the Bulls had a loss to Heidelberg on the weekend, and we saw the first fixture in round 3. And I don't think Heidelberg, they really enjoyed losing that game, to be honest. I think they had a bit of a stranglehold over Bundoora, and last week when they got their chance at him, Blair Harvey's 250th, of course, the inspirational captain coach. Heidelberg led all day, won by 13 points, as I mentioned. Saul Caddy kicked the winner with not too long to go, but they did lead all day and to get the win there. So Bundoora is really going to want to bounce back from only their 2nd loss of the year, 2nd loss in 3 weeks. And they did the job on McLeod when they played him in the first leg, and I don't think McLeod does tend to play better on their home ground at the Winton. This one at Geelong Reserve, and I think it's pretty tough to go past the Bulls bouncing back from last week.
Yeah, I think after the loss, mate, they'll be breathing fire, and I think against Heidelberg, 26 scoring shots to 23 it was. So it was a close game, but obviously Heidelberg were too good in the end. I think just getting up for Harvey's 250th in the end. But back on their home turf against McLeod, who are just a bit iffy when they travel. But you just don't know with the recent form of Cathal Call, as you spoke about, leading the goal kicking from a midfielder and leading the Players Association leading player. Anything can happen if he fires.
Well, it is a good point you make. He's been in some fine form. He kicked about 15 or more goals in the past 3 weeks, and I did chat to him as you would have seen yesterday on Wednesday at the interview. So he's a pretty modest bloke, so I don't think it's going to go into his head at all. And for Bundoora, Cameron Cloakes has been out of form. It's a little over the past 2 weeks. Only kicked the 2 goals, so I expect a big game from him. But it'll be interesting to see who McLeod puts on him to start the game. But Gary Moorcross, the other one, who's continued his fine form, another 5 on the weekend despite the loss, was a fair effort. But next on the agenda we have Whittlesea taking on Heidelberg, and it's at the Whittlesea Showgrounds where Whittlesea plays their best football. They've won only the 3 games this year, but they've been really competitive in a lot of the others. They would have considered themselves very unlucky to lose on the weekend. And of course, when they did play West Preston at the ground earlier this year, led all day and lost by 15 points, conceded the last 5 or so goals. So they're definitely going confident into this one. Heidelberg, though, starting to make a run this year. They struggled in the opening part of the season. I think the team's starting to unify a bit more now, and I think they're starting to get a lot of their core players back on the field. 3 straight wins, and I think on the weekend they might make it 4.
I think getting Saul Caddy back last week was huge, and probably part of the reason that the structure of the club and the reason they beat Bundoora. Will be tough, I think, for Whittlesea to beat them. I just think that Heidelberg is starting to get back to their best, like you spoke about. And let's not forget, this is a club that knows how to win premierships and knows how to win games. So you'd think that Heidelberg are just starting to run into some nice form, and Whittlesea probably meeting them at the wrong time. So I'll be tipping the Tigers.
Well, you mentioned with Montmorency, if they could just sneak into into the 5 rather, that they'll be a side that could be a smoky come final side. But Heidelberg's obviously the obvious one. Of course, sitting 4th on the ladder now. I don't think from here. I think they'll only get stronger, and I think they'll probably end up a bit higher than that. But should things go all in, and maybe they just come 5th on the ladder, definitely one side you don't want to be playing in finals. As you mentioned, they do know what it's all about and how to win the big games.
That's right.
4 times the Premier in the past 5 years. Very tough to beat. North Heidelberg takes on your mob, Northcote Park, this weekend, and the Cougars coming in on the back of 3 losses. Ran very close second on the weekend, lost by 6 points. Left their run maybe a little late in the end, 21 points down at 3/4 time. Did level scores, but were unable to hit the lead at any stage. And then, of course, West Preston went down, kicked 2 goals, which the Cougars did get one back, and they made for an interesting final 2 minutes or so. And the ball wasn't in the Cougars' attacking half as well when the siren sounded, so perhaps a minute longer and they could have levelled the game, but they'll be disappointed from that. Shane Harvey came back for the Doggies on the weekend, kicked 8, and they still went down by 10 goals against McLeod away, and also Dave Florence was in the side. So they are starting to get they've definitely got their 2 best players back in the field, but with Northcote Park reeling from 3 losses, I don't think they'll lose a 4th on the weekend.
Yeah, look, our recent record at the Kennel hasn't been that good. In saying that, North Heidelberg in recent years have been a lot more competitive, say, than what they've been this year, which is probably unfortunate for them. Northcote Park are coming off 3 losses. But the game against West Preston was just an absolute cracker. We looked at it at half time. Northcote were down 2 blokes on the bench. The second half inside 50s were Northcote Park 31-13. So they really had the ball. They controlled the ball for the second half, but just couldn't put enough scoreboard pressure to win the game. But in saying that, I think the ability for West Preston to hold on and really fight out the win was just fantastic to watch.
It was, and for reigning Premier now, sitting it was second on the ladder, but equal first on points, just percentage separating the Roosters from the Bulls. And I think that I've said it for the last couple of weeks, but you don't hear too much about West Preston. I think early in the year, a lot of the hype was around Greensboro and Bundoora, and then of course Northcote Park made their run, and now with Heidelberg coming into some form, they're the teams everyone's been talking about. But the Roosters haven't really put a foot wrong. They haven't lost since round 4 when they lost to Eltham. Maybe even been it was round 4, but lost the first game, and you take that out, and they've run some really good form. I think 8 times winner of his past 9 matches. So in some decent form there. But on the weekend, against the Cougars, they really dominated that second quarter, and that's when they opened up the lead. But in the first quarter, of course, we saw that Bronick Davies was yellow carded in an incident, which probably wasn't too much in it. Might have been a bit unlucky to go out there, but despite losing Davies, Northcote Park really adapted well, and probably should have led by a bit more at quarter time. Actually went down trailing by a point at quarter time, but I felt they really dominated that quarter. And how did they use that ascendancy? I think the result may have been different on the weekend. I
think West Preston's strengths as well, and Matt Ahmed spoke about it on the previous show. Rocker played well, didn't dominate the game. Preston G. Como, I think, played well but didn't dominate the game. What Matt Ahmed spoke about is West Preston are just so even. Across 22 players, they're incredibly even. Robertson steps up and plays a great game and gets the biggies. Controlli steps up the young fella and does really well. So they're just such an even side. And we're speaking about now, we haven't really spoken much about West Preston, and they're equal first. So they're just going along very nicely at the moment, Sammy.
I'm glad you mentioned Controlli there, because I thought he played a really good game. Only a young kid, and that mark he took in the third quarter, the absolute hang on the ring.
Cracker.
Contender for Mark of the Year. Yep. Hopefully there's some footage of it somewhere. But also then to give the ball off to Vasilevsky, who just went bang from 55. It was player of the day by far, and good to watch. And he had a really good game, and particularly in the second quarter when they lifted. He kicked, I think it was 3 behind. So had he been able to kick straight, he could have been a deciding factor in the game. And as you mentioned, Robertson was able to hit the scoreboard again. So those forward pocket half forward types were lively on the weekend.
And you did mention as well Vasilevsky, the ex-Bundoora player. Geez, he played well. He's just got a damaging left boot. And Yeah, they've got to be firm on favourites with Bundoora for this year's flag because they're just playing good football.
Well, they showed in the finals last year that they can play good when it counts in September. So definitely one to watch, and with Presti and Rocker and the team, some old heads as well. They're only probably going to get stronger this year when the finals come around. So they'll be one definitely to keep an eye on. And they actually play the final game of this round. They take on Eltham at J.E. Moore Park. First time around, Eltham got the Bickies against West Preston. It was Anthony Rocker's first game in the Roosters jumper, and of course Chris Pendlebury came out for Eltham that weekend with Collingwood VFL having to bye. Did the job on Rocker, and this time around he won't be there. And Eltham on the weekend, they'll be bitterly disappointed not to get the points. Now fallen one whole game outside the top 5, and really a game where they needed to win it. They could have actually pushed inside the top 5 had they won, maybe just percentage outside behind Northcote Park, but they're starting to slip away, and if they are going to play finals this year, it's definitely a game they have to win, because in the coming weeks they do take on the likes of Bundoora and Greensboro, so ties inside the top 3 in the ladder, and definitely this week becomes even more important against West Preston, a side who they have to perform against this year.
Yeah, like you spoke about, their next run, they're playing all the teams inside the top 3, so they've just got a hugely tough run. In saying that, I think they'll fancy themselves against the reigning premiers. I think you're going to fancy yourself each week. But with Keenan up forward, if they can just gather some momentum, you just don't know what's happened. West Preston have had a pretty taxing game against Northcote Park on a big field. Probably not so much as what they're used to out at J.E. Moore Park. But I think when they go back home, West Preston, they should be able to consolidate it, and I think they will win the game, West Preston.
Well, it's great that it's at round 11 we're still talking with 8 teams a chance to make the finals. Yep. Whittlesey's probably dropped off the mark now, but they're definitely a danger side for teams who are finals contenders, and they're not to be taken lightly. They can definitely probably can't make the 5 now, but definitely have a big impact on who does make it and the final format of the top 5. So it's some fascinating footy, and if we get half the good games we got last week, we're in for a great round, of course, and as we mentioned, 4 games decided by less than 14 points. Fantastic for the league. So hopefully we get another close round. Thank you for your time this Thursday evening, and make sure you stay on the website and have a look at all the other features, a few back reports going up there, and previews. Quinny's got one on there, and he'll be back in the seat next week, so make sure you're tuning in then. Thanks for your time, and make sure you get out to the footy on the weekend. Of course, we have youth girls at Barling Reserve on Saturday, and also the juniors on Sunday. The netball, as always, on Friday night at RMIT. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.
Take care.